Welcome back, and our last guest for today is youth educator Marilou Coombe, and she's going to be talking about whether the youth of today are getting the optimum level of support that they need as they grow up. Welcome, Marilou.
Hi, thank you for having me today.
It's our pleasure. So tell me, are the youth of today getting the optimum level of support as they grow up?
There's two parts to that question, two-part answer. There's a part where I say yes, they are, as far as what government and schools and so on are doing. Like, I'll give you an example. Growing up, we only had TAFE, high school that you went to. And if you didn't fit into either of those, well, bad luck kind of thing, you're a dropout. Whereas now kids have a lot more option in different pathways that they can follow, whether it's online learning, whether it's VCAL, whether it's trades. So there's a lot just, and so much more I probably don't even know about, but there is so many more choices there for them. That's just like in one area. For example, if you want to have a look at the mental health of young people, you know, growing up, we didn't even have wellbeing coordinators at school. Tough luck if you were having an issue, like that was on the parents to go find you somebody. Whereas now there's that available at school. There's a whole bunch of organizations like Headspace, you know, a lot of things out there for youth that are available. And I think all these things are great. However, why I say no is because we're still seeing higher rates of anxiety, higher rates of youth issues. Let's just lump everything under like youth issues without going into the details. And so I question sometimes how effective all these choices are when we're still not getting those optimal results. Like we've got higher anxiety in children, high depression in children, you know, low self-belief. So my question is with, you know, why aren't these things as effective as they can be? And that to me is there's something lacking. So I don't feel like the kids are as supported as much as what they can be, because they don't get to also take away those practical tools that they can implement in their everyday life because of all these kind of choices that they have. And then it's like, what do they really focus on that they can take away to apply for that when they're just jumping from one thing to another?
So what needs to be done for practitioners to be able to achieve that optimum outcome with the youth?
So a few things. As a youth practitioner myself and as well as an educator, I think it's really, really important to fill your own cup first. I have seen way too many practitioners, whether they're working for themselves or working for somebody else, like as a youth worker, psychologist, counsellor, wellbeing coordinator at school, is a lot of the time they're quite burnt out and they're not looking after themselves. Now, we can give all the tools and all the processes to young people, but if our energy is not matching that and we're worn out, kids speak energy more than anything. So they're going to be unconsciously listening to that. Yeah, I can't tell a young person to self-care and give them a whole plan on how to self-care and how to look after themselves better if I'm not looking after myself as a practitioner. So this was quite a big problem, you know, to have for kids that needed it right now, right here. You know, and they're under-resourced. I feel like we're quite under-resourced in this area. You know, we create these great organizations that can support our kids, but then they're under-resourced and we can't access them as quickly as what we need to for immediate emergency issues that are happening in real life, you know, rather than waiting that 6-9 months wait where a child in particular has already moved through that problem, is into something else now, and it escalates. Yeah. So I feel like that's a really big issue that practitioners are facing in particular. So I would say, fill your own cup first, make sure you're taking care of yourself, walk your talk with young people. I think that's really, really, really important. And then look for outside resources of yourself to support that young person if you can't as a practitioner. I think that's really important.
So what advice would you give to everyone in that sector as a whole? So whether they're a practitioner, part of an organization, parents, or even the youths who are looking for support?
I go back to always filling our own cup first. I think that is really, really important. And I think as practitioners and, you know, organizations and so on, we're constantly going in thinking we have to fix a young person up. Well, there's nothing to fix about a young person. What they really need is to feel supported, to feel heard, to feel seen, to feel like they've got a space where they are feeling safe to be able to unpack and unload. I think that's the most important thing. what we need to do is focus on making them feel like they are a human, having an experience rather than the experience fitting the human. So what I mean by that is there's no cookie cutter for working with young people. My favorite phrase that I do say is meet the young person where they're at rather than their label or the diagnosis or any of that sort of stuff. So I think that's really important, because then that creates a space for that young person where they feel like, hey, you see me for who I am, you understand me, you get me, rather than being focused on the processes or on the bureaucratic side of stuff or on what we need to tick off a list, or, you know, our kids must learn gratitude or our kids must learn resilience, where it's like, no, collaborate, work with that kid, meet them where they're at, work with their nervous system to get them those results rather than what fits in that box.
Could you expand for me what it means to meet them where they're at? How do I do that?
So let me give you an example of how to meet a child where they're at. Quite often we come in with a label or a diagnosis and it's like we need to fit them into this box, rather than just talking to the actual child and seeing exactly what's going on for them and working on that with them rather than the whole label, because of whatever condition they have.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Marilou.
Thank you for having me here.
If you would like to know more about the youth getting the support they need as they grow up, or more about Marilou, you can head over to her webpage, which is on our website, healthwellbeingandlifestyle.com.au. That is it for today's episode, but we'll see you back again soon.